I'm Dave Potter with Digital Journal, and we're here at Inventures. I'm joined by Madison Savilow, the Director of Corporate and External Affairs for Carbon Upcycling. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell me about Carbon Upcycling? What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Carbon Upcycling is a carbon capture and utilization company. We also view our impact as more holistic than that, more in the waste to value side of things, because we use a lot of industrial byproducts and waste materials to sequester and store CO2. And then through our process, we're able to create CO2 enhanced cement replacement for the concrete sector.
And so can you just break down, how does the carbon capture work for people that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, for sure. So we actually have a one-piece system, but it does two things. It captures the CO2 and it utilizes it. So essentially what we're doing is a mineralization process where the CO2 attaches, the molecule actually attaches to whatever particle of inorganic industrial byproduct we're using, and it's able to store that CO2 permanently. We don't have to actually process the flue gas or CO2 in any way, no concentration, no expensive capture systems or direct air capture. It is simply a full stack carbon capture and utilization process in one. And this happens all within one piece of equipment.
And you do a lot of work with concrete, cement, and other sort of industries that are known to be difficult to work with when it comes to carbon capture. Why did you end up choosing those ones? Why the focus there?
Yeah, so actually when we first started the company, we had this platform, carbon capture and utilization company. We had a whole bunch of different industries that we could apply that to, depending on the solid feedstock that we put in. But then in 2018, we did the Lafarge Wholesome Accelerator in France and really found our product market fit in concrete. I guess the best way to put this is, if you were going to store CO2 into anything, why not the second most used substance on Earth? So that's really how we found it. We also found performance benefits with our technology, but really we solve a lot of business problems within the cement and concrete sector, and that's really where we focus. So there's a lot of materials right now that are starting to dwindle in supply. These are known as supplementary cementitious materials, and they're used for a number of different reasons, a lot of performance reasons, or even to reduce the cost of the concrete overall. But as we phase off of things like coal or we electrify steel systems, we end up having a dwindling supply of those materials. And so what we can offer is a localized source of these SCMs, and we can start to bring that material back into the fold. Also through a decarbonization lens and with CO2 attached to it. The other angle is the environmental side. So cement and concrete, very, very hard to decarbonize. Cement just inherently, as you produce it, will release CO2. When you heat up limestone, that's where the CO2 gets released. And so one of the biggest levers that the cement and concrete sector has to rely on is alternative materials.
You've written about the fact that people underestimate the impact of cement. Can you unpack that idea a little bit? Yeah,
for sure. And maybe it take a step back on what the difference is between cement and concrete. So cement comes before concrete alphabetically and also in order of production. And cement is really the glue that holds all of the ingredients of concrete together. It's kind of like if the concrete was a cake you were baking, the cement is the flour. And so what we end up seeing here is that the concrete sector overall is about 8% of global emissions. That's 3 times the amount from the aviation sector, but 90% of that actually comes from cement production. So it's a huge opportunity to decarbonize it. And then, like I said, it's also a really massive volume of material being used. It's the second most used substance on Earth other than water. So the volumes themselves give a great opportunity to store CO2.
Carbon Upcycling is a certified B Corp. Can you tell me a little bit about the decision behind that?
Yeah, for sure. I think it just aligned philosophically also with what we were doing. And, every aspect of our work, we have a very diverse team. We are doing work that's, environmentally sound. We're providing local jobs. We're using upcycled solid waste as well. So that waste to value side of things. So it seemed to align perfectly. Interestingly, though, there wasn't a specific category for the industrial work that we were doing. So it actually took us quite a while to get it, in just that we weren't a product category that they had previously evaluated.
And do you notice, does it change the way you function at all?
Yeah, I think it gives us a standard to live up to. From my understanding, we're also evaluated on an annual basis to keep the numbers pretty high from the B Corp evaluation. And so just something to strive for and continue to achieve year on year.
There's a lot of climate tech is notorious for not making it out of the lab and getting into market. What's been sort of key to your ability to actually get these projects into the real world?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of things. It's never just one thing. I think the first thing that's really helped support us is grant funding. So we were grant funded actually all the way up to having a commercial demonstration facility here in Calgary, which is kind of unusual. Usually you'd see startups go for venture capital much earlier, but that gave us an amazing opportunity to go for venture capital in a kind of a stronger format. We had something to really show for our work that was already outside of the lab. The second thing I think is some of the accelerators and competitions we've been a part of. So we were a part of the Carbon X Prize. X Prize actually just launched a hub in Canada, so super exciting to see that link again back here in Calgary. But that was a great opportunity to launch our business and scale faster than we ever thought we could. Through that competition, we actually scaled 10 million times in production capacity. And so that was really excellent. And then I would say the last piece is once we got that venture capital, it really allowed us to grow and scale like we hadn't previously. And the other big catalyzer is internal champions. So within the industrial partners that we have, both on the feedstock side and the cement side, finding folks that would bolster our work and help create those partnerships for really large projects, first of a kind projects, and then through to commercial scale has really been part and parcel of what's allowed us to get out of the lab and scale the technology.
You mentioned the grant funding and that being sort of key to your success. How did you go about identifying the grants? Did you stumble upon them? Were you recommended or?
Yeah. I don't know exactly how we found them. I think it's happened in a number of different ways. A lot of them are recommendations. A lot of times we have sought them out, and especially project categories that were kind of intriguing at the time. So carbon conversion was really popular for grants. It still is popular, but 5 years ago or so there was lots available because it was so nascent, it was so exciting and novel, and that really allowed these grants to come in and be very successful in catalyzing the work. So that was the first thing, and then we also worked with a few experts in grants and helped us kind of really narrow our search and make sure we found ones that were aligned and not distracting from our current operations.
When you're having conversations with new potential customers, is the lead of the conversation the environmental side? Is it functional side? How does that conversation play out?
Yeah, really good question. I think, from our perspective, if you're a carbon capture and utilization company, you have to be economically viable without relying on carbon credits, carbon subsidies, anything like that. Just in the nature that these are still kind of developing markets. And so for us to be successful, we really had to focus on solving the business problems of the concrete sector. And one of those, like I mentioned, is this dwindling supply of supplementary cementitious materials and how that's kind of starting to fall away as we decarbonize other spaces. So that's really what we've been able to offer is this local supply of materials created from waste in the local region, sequestering the CO2 that the cement companies have, so that helps with some of their decarbonization goals. And that's really where we bridge into this conversation about the environmental impact that our solution has.
What have been sort of the biggest hurdles as you've gone into market or as the companies started to grow?
Yeah, I mean, there's always hurdles, especially when you're scaling deep tech. It takes always way longer than you think it would. I think the big thing, too, is being able to identify where the gaps are in our team and then find talent that fits that. I think we've been really good at identifying those gaps, but it's always tricky to find the right talent. And that's something that I think we start to get better at year on year. But I would say that's one of the bigger hurdles for sure. I would also say that the conservative nature of the construction sector is also at play. Really, the concrete mix hasn't changed since the Colosseum was built. So if it speaks to anything of the conservative nature and how slow moving it is and how undisrupted, I think, and I guess for good reason too, you don't want buildings that are made of trial materials, but really finding these opportunities to have internal champions bolster our work has been something that's really helped overcome that challenge.
When you're having those conversations with new customers, what are the obstacles or biggest challenges? What's the hesitation on their side, and how do you address it?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is really just the novelty or newness of the material. So just for reference, we've tested and trialed over 45 different solid feedstocks to sequester and store the CO2 and create SCMs. But we really focus on three main materials now, three families of materials, because they're already readily accepted by the concrete sector. So this is kind of how how we got around that initial hurdle or challenge or unease of this new material that we're bringing in. And essentially what we did is we said, look, we'll take the out of spec or waste versions of these conventional materials and we'll upcycle them so you can use them. And that started to build trust, and the more data that we showed to them, the more trials we were able to do in the field, really allowed us to demonstrate and start to scale the technology with their support.
Where are the areas of growth for you? Are you growing in Canada? Is it international? Where are the hotspots?
Yeah, both for sure. So we do have current operations in Calgary. That's where we've scaled kind of our commercial pilot facilities. We're actually at the Alberta Carbon Conversion Technology Center, which is the largest operating test facility for carbon conversion in North America. So super excited to be there and continue to use that test bed. We're also working on our first of a kind integrated plant at a cement facility in Ontario. This will actually be the largest installation of CCU at a cement plant in the world. So we're super excited for that one to come online early next year sometime. So that's kind of our Canadian expansion. We're working on a couple other project opportunities here, but a lot of our projects are also in the US and in Europe, where they're also seeing some of the dwindling supply of materials.
And so that's the biggest driver, is you sort of look for places where the materials are running out and go knocking?
And where they have feedstocks too. So we would find, say, a landfill with fly ash in it, or we'd find a steel plant that's now electrified and they have to send their material to landfill. So a lot of it comes into the diversion play, and there's a few different kind of things that have to overlap for that project to be successful.
You talked about talent and the difficulty in finding it. Do you find it locally? Are you looking for talent everywhere and bring it in?
Yeah, I mean, we've taken both approaches for sure. A lot of our talent is local, which has been excellent to see. And then we have a couple team members that are remote. So yeah, definitely in these different hubs where we're starting to build up project operations, we'll have to develop out that talent base. But yeah, historically, we've kind of looked actually in both camps and tried to find the best people that can fill that role.
And how long is a typical project for you?
So we have a 2-year build cycle is what we're looking at currently. And we have done that for our commercial pilot demonstration. That's what we're also looking at time-wise for our first-of-a-kind plant. But yeah, it should be something that we're able to replicate for full-scale facilities as well.
You made a comment online about finding purpose industry fit. Can you talk a bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, so that was kind of my play on product market fit, and this comes into kind of talent and being able to find people that are very mission driven. And I think for me, being able to play in this space of industrial decarbonization and utilizing waste that is legacy waste, it's been sitting in landfill for ages. Fly ash in particular, a byproduct of coal incineration plants, just sits in landfill. It's not used. And so for me, I was very passionate about this industrial decarbonization route and being able to transfer that over to something that now has value and can really start to build the built environment of the future. And I think so much of the built environment really structures society, becomes the fabric of society. And when you start to look at new cities or you visit places abroad, you think of the architecture in that location, and maybe most people don't think of the materials that make up the buildings, but I certainly do. And I think that's a really interesting kind of passion and market fit for what I'm doing here.
Were you surprised to find that you found this fit in this industry?
Yeah, certainly. I definitely didn't think I would be, shoveling fly ash or like learning how to weld to build a unit. But that was something that I really enjoyed in the hands-on nature of this role. I don't do that anymore, but when we were really small and scaling this up, I think it helped me also buy into the experience and really see what this could be in a massive way.
So having gone through that stretch of going from very small to growing now, how do you deal with selling such a large-scale, long-term project with a tiny little team? Was it a hard thing to explain to potential customers?
Well, I think when you find what their problem is, and if you have a solution that can really fit that, I think that starts to fall away. And as long as you can keep proving it, right? You have to validate it, and you take these small steps, and you ask them, what do you need to see to trust us and to really want to move this forward? We've also had some really great partners through, just being here local. We were able to work with Burnco, for instance. Like, they're a fantastic ready mix company that's really bolstered our work and been a champion of it. And I think once you have one, you can leverage that work and that experience to others. And I think that's something that we've been really scrappy about and really diligent on creating these relationships.
Final question: what's the future hold for carbon upcycling? What do you see in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see our plants everywhere. It's a really great drop-in solution for a cement facility, for feedstock players that are looking to utilize waste that they have. And so for us, I mean, I'm just really excited to work on full-scale projects that are going to start to remediate some of the waste that is underutilized and start to capture CO2 that otherwise would end up in atmosphere.
Look forward to watching.
Amazing.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
For more on the innovation taking place here at Inventures and across Canada, visit digitaljournal.com.